Test, 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 test. Okay, if the test was on still, I apologize for you guys having to listen to that. Though this is the second recording, so bear with me. Excuse me. We are beginning content area 2. This includes quite a bit of information, so we're breaking it down into chapters. We just finished, as you know, with chapter 1 and the prehistoric content area, which is content area 1. So, chapter 2 deals in Mesopotamia and Persian art. It's between 3500 and 641 BCE. If you look at the map here, we see that it's within the Fertile Crescent. So, Mesopotamia is between the Euphrates and Tigris River. So, right through here. What that does is it makes very fertile, it's called the Fertile Crescent. It makes very fertile land, but it also makes very temperamental climate. So it's no surprise that the Mesopotamian and Persian and the gods of these areas were seen to be aggressive and mean, and a lot of killing went on during this time period. So we know the shift between Stone Age and Mesopotamian happened due to the finding of bronze, of metalworking. So in Stone Age, of course, they used a lot of stone for tools and weaponry and things like that. And now that we're into the Bronze Age, they use bronze tools, weaponry, and those sort of things. So that's the shift between, that's what creates that shift between the Neolithic and the Bronze Age occurring. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this is called Ancient Near Eastern Art. It's a time period, again, between 6500 BCE to, 621 CE. I got those wrong. Oh, no, we're still in BCE. That's incorrect. I apologize. SABHAP. Well, it's a great acronym to remember all the civilizations and major powers that occurred during Mesopotamia. So we have Sumerian art, which occurs between 3500 and 2340 BCE. We have Akkadian art, which 2340 to 2180 BCE. Then we go to Babylonian art, 1792 to 1750. We have Hittite art, which 1600 to 1200. Assyrian art, 1000 to 612 BCE. And then we go to Persian art that reigns majority of the time between 559 and 331 BCE. Later, we will notice that the Persian era continues a lot longer and created quite a bit of destruction. They were a force to be reckoned with for a long time. What you'll notice is we also have Neos here. When you add Neo, it's new. So this would be New Sumerian art. So that means that around this date, 2100 to 2000 BCE, there was a reoccurrence of Sumerian art or Sumerian style. And then with Babylonian, we have Neo-Babylonian between these dates, 612 and 539. Again, when that occurs, it's because we see another trend of Babylonian style coming back into play. There are a lot of subcultures. These are considered subcultures here of this era, but it will make sense, and hopefully we've broken it down okay. But remember the acronym SABHAP. SABHAP. That'll help. Okay? So we're first going to talk about Sumerian art. Sorry, I was checking my notes here. So in Sumerian art is considered Sumer. So Sumer is an area, or it's a city or an area which of Mesopotamia. It was between 3500 and 2300 BCE. What we're seeing here is the ancient Near East brought about the birth of art in the service of the state and religion. So we're seeing states occurring. So that's what Sumer would be. We're seeing religion happening. They're combining writing with imagery, and then Mesopotamian objects give us the first symbolic record of human development. Let's go back. There we go. It's probably better to stay on this one when we talk about this. The first writing cities, we're seeing the first writing cities, organized religion, organized government, laws, agriculture, bronze casting, again, Bronze Age, and the use of the wheel. Large populations emerged in the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. We see city centers booming as urbanization began to take hold. So we see big groups of people, large groups of people living in the same area, really making those city centers booming, and we're seeing a definite shift in hierarchy. So we have the upper class, middle class, low class happening here. Each group of people vied to control the Central Valleys. So all of these areas were controlled by groups of typically rich people, taking turns occupying the land and eventually relinquishing it to others. Mesopotamia is the assumed place of the Garden of Eden. So it connects with Jericho, that first settlement that we talked about in Stone Age. Again, we've got the Sumerian art. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So Sumer was the first urban civilization in the ancient southern Mesopotamia. So again, all this blue area at this map is Mesopotamia. Sumer is down here in the, we'll just say pink for a better word. It also includes Ur and Urker, which are, again, our two major cities. We've got Ur down here at the very bottom, like straight down at the bottom, and we have Urker right there by the river. So all these places that you see on the map, so Urker, Ur, Lipidar, they are city-states. So a city that is within the surroundings forms a city-state. It's ruled by a single person or a council of chosen leaders from very prominent leading families in the area. The Sumerians were polytheistic, meaning that they believed in many gods. So polytheistic means that they believed in many gods. The leaders of these cities were seen as spokespeople for the gods. So they weren't the gods themselves that we will see coming about in Egyptian art, but they were seen as spokespeople, that the gods would speak to them and then they would direct everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Construction, food, what you wear, everything. It's the first complex of urban societies. So much food production was happening, so it freed many people to dabble in trades, and thus the very beginning of a hierarchy society. We also see the start of cuneiform or cuneiform, however you want to say it. Basically wedged shape writing. So it's the first, that's why we are in history and not prehistoric eras. So this is the work of vase. It's the first great narrative relief that we see. Oh man, guys, I'm sorry. Let me get back in there. I love SIS. That wasn't even where I was at. Where am I? There we go. Okay. So this is the work of vase. It's the first great narrative relief, meaning it's the first relief sculpture or vase that's told a story. It was found in Uruk. It's the first pictorial fields not floating into space. So if you remember back in the Stone Age, with the cave paintings, those guys are pretty much just floating in space. So what we're seeing is the definition of a ground line. So that means in paintings or relief, a painted or carved baseline on which figures appear to stand. So they're not just floating out in the middle of nowhere. Yep. I'm dropping stuff. Sorry, guys. So the White Temple of Uruk, 3200 to 3000 BCE. It used only mud bricks. It was on a bent axis plan, and if you look down here at the bottom left, I don't know if my pointer's showing up, but the bottom left image, bent axis basically means it comes all the way up into a connected area, all the steps do, and then it bends and it moves around, like then you can branch off from where you need to go. Historians link the White Temple at Uruk as dedicated to Anu, which is the sky god. Worships include priests and a select few of other upper-class citizens. Usually the normal person wasn't allowed in there. There's a central hall or cellar This housed the altar and was the divinity's room. So this is where they supposedly came to whenever they came to visit those upper crust people. The temple was the waiting room for the people, and it was believed that that the deity would descend from the heavens and appear before the priest in the cella. So the central hall is called the cella. Make sure I didn't miss anything. The Inanna head from the Inanna Temple, 2300 to 3000 BCE. This is something I want to show you because they think that it would be a depiction of the goddess of love and war, Inanna, but possibly just a priestess. So what you're seeing here is the traditional Sumer characteristic of very large eyes. And then we see these unibrow carving, like the unibrow carving, and then the space in between here. What they believe is that would have had some sort of fibrous inlay, possibly rich gold that was eventually taken out and discarded of. So, here are the characteristics of Sumerian art. We have the eyes, wide open eyes. The men have big barrel chests and typically wear kilts. Women, the left shoulder is uncovered, and the right the left shoulder is typically covered and the right is exposed. We see a lot of nudity when it comes to slaves, and sorry, my brain stopped working. Okay. The slave ones typically tended to have less information on them. They stood upright, but lots of nudity. So if you see a nude person in Mesopotamian art, it typically meant that they were slaves. So we're seeing a free intermixing of animals and humans in all of their carvings and paintings. We also see that anthropomorphic or zoomorphic figures of beasts' heads on human bodies or vice versa. That usually means anthropomorphic. So if we're looking at the next one, which is the Ashuna sculptures, or Ashuna votives. So these statues, we've got male, women, we have children. They have very large eyes. Look at those big round eyes. Those eyes symbolize perpetual wakefulness. And they were used for worshipers to come and give offerings to the deities. If you look, they say votive sculptures because they're holding little cups in their hands right there. They're holding little beakers. So it's made of gypsum and shell, and these are the Ashuna statuettes. Make sure I didn't miss anything. We'll talk about that one more because that is one of our artifacts. The stele of the vultures. So we're also, in this one, we're talking about optical representation, which means the representation of people and objects as seen from a fixed point. So you're seeing them at the exact same point, even though they're on different ground lines. So this was a stele, and if you remember what the stele was from last chapter, it's a carved slab that's erected to commemorate a historical event or, in some cultures, mark a grave. So we did that with the anthropomorphic stele last chapter. It gives special information of of a specific Sumerian ruler. So it is not stylized, it is not figurative. This is a specific case. And you guys will have to pardon my pronunciation on a lot of this stuff. I apologize. So I'm going to give it a shot though. So the ruler is called Eannatum. Got it. See? Eannatum. As well as gives information on the dynamics of the time. So this gruesome scene of vultures carrying off several heads and arms of the defeated enemy soldiers. It's basically, let me try it again, Eannatum was victorious. And so it's showing vultures swooping down and carrying off body parts and nasty things of the people that he was victorious over. Shows a giant figure of the god Nigarshu beating his enemies. It's a composite frontal view. You remember what that means? What's that mean? Yeah, think about that. Composite frontal view or composite view. um,